Hey friends, it's story time. Today's story is called The Mitten. There are lots of different versions of this story. This one was adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. The Mitten, the Ukrainian folktale adapted and illustrated by Jan Brett. Show you what's happening in this photo. Boy is looking out the window. And here he is leaving the house. Once there was a boy named Nicky who wanted his new mittens made from wool as white as snow. At first, his grandmother, Baba, did not want to knit white mittens. If you drop one in the snow, she warned, you'll never find it. But Nicky wanted snow-white mittens, and finally Baba made them. After she finished, she said, "When you come home, first I will look to see if you are safe and sound, but then I will look to see if you still have your snow-white mittens." So off Nicky went, and it wasn't long before one of his new mittens dropped in the snow and was left behind. There he goes. A mole, tired from tunneling along, discovered the mitten and burrowed inside. It was cozy and warm and just the right size, so he decided to stay. Who's coming next? There goes Nicky. A snowshoe rabbit came hopping by. He stopped for a moment to admire his winter coat. It was then that he saw the mitten, and he wiggled in, feet first. The mole didn't think there would be room for them both, but when he saw the rabbit's big kickers, he moved over. Next, a hedgehog came snuffling along. Having spent the day looking under wet leaves for things to eat, he decided to move into the mitten and warm himself. The mole and the rabbit were bumped and jostled, but not being ones to argue with someone covered in prickles, they made room. Nicky's over here looking at a tree. Looks like he scared the owl. As soon as the hedgehog disappeared into the mitten, a big owl, attracted by the commotion, swooped down. When he decided to move in also, the mole, the rabbit, and the hedgehog grumbled, but when they saw the owl's glinty talons, they quickly let him in. Nicky's over here making some snowballs. And the snowball rolls down to the tree. Up through the snow appeared a badger. He eyed the mitten and began to climb in. The mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, and the owl were not pleased. There was no room left, but when they saw his diggers, they gave him the thumb to come on in. There's a fox. Who's next? The fox. It started snowing, but the animals were snug in the mitten. A waft of warm steam rose in the air, and a fox trotting by stopped to investigate. Just the sight of the cozy mitten made him feel drowsy. The fox poked his muzzle in. When the mole, the rabbit, the hedgehog, the owl, and the badger saw his shiny teeth, they gave the fox lots of room. Nicky's sliding down a hill on top of somebody's cave. A great bear lumbered by. He spied the mitten all plumped up. Not being one to be left out in the cold, he began to nose his way in. The animals were packed in as tightly as could be, but what animal would argue with a bear? The mitten swelled and stretched. It was pulled and it bulged to many times its size, but Baba's good knitting held fast. Nicky's sitting on the stump, and then out of the stump, Along came a meadow mouse, no bigger than an acorn. She wriggled into the one space left and made herself comfortable on top of the great bear's nose. Nikki's noticed something. The bear, tickled by the mouse's whiskers, gave an enormous sneeze. Ka-choo! The force of the sneeze shot the mitten up into the sky and scattered the animals in all directions. What's Nikki doing now? While all this chaos is happening. On his way home, Nikki saw a white shape in the distance. It was the lost mitten silhouetted against the blue sky. Meanwhile, all the animals are recovering. As he ran to catch his snow white mitten, he saw Baba's face in the window. First, she looked to see if he was safe and sound, and then she saw that he still had his new mittens. The badger's going home, the rabbit's going home, the mole's going home, the owl, the fox, the bear. I think that might be the mouse. The end. Keep track of your mittens, friends.